So if anybody from the government wants to search your home or even the trunk of your car or your property, they need a warrant from a judge in order to do so. Okay. Which a warrant is basically a note from a judge in a United States court stating that the police officers or the FBI or the CIA or whatever government organization wants to search your home has permission to do so. The Fifth Amendment states that you have the right to a trial with a jury. So what a jury is, it's a group of American citizens who are randomly picked to sit in on a court case with a judge. And their assignment is to, at the end of the court case, help the judge decide the outcome of the case. And the Fifth Amendment also states that you cannot be charged with the same crime twice. So, for instance, if I was accused of speeding down Euclid Avenue on November 5th at 11 a.m., and I pleaded not guilty to the speeding charge, and I went to court before a judge and a jury, and the judge and the jury claimed that I was innocent of speeding and that the officer wrongly accused me of committing the crime. I could not be charged with committing that offense again. Okay, so once you're declared not guilty by a judge and a jury on a specific charge, so in this example, a speeding charge, you can't be tried again for that crime. Okay? And also, the government cannot take your property without paying you for it. So sometimes when the government is building a transportation system like a train track, okay, your house may be right in the way of their line, where they want to build their train track. What they have to do is they have to pay you for your property. Okay, so they can tell you that, hey, we're building a train track here. Your house is in the way of our train track plans. They can't just take your house and your property from you. They can take it from you, but they must pay you for it. Okay, they must pay you for whatever it's worth. And they can't just take it without paying for you. That's against the Fifth Amendment. All right, so the Sixth Amendment states that you have a right to a fair trial before a judge and a jury, and that you have a right to a lawyer to help you. So if you can't afford your own attorney or lawyer, the government pays for one for you. Okay? The Seventh Amendment states that a trial with a jury can help you solve issues involving property or money. So very common civil case that occurs when this is common in America. When people get divorced, sometimes they go to court over who gets the house, who gets the cars, who gets certain properties, and who's entitled to a bank account and other money that the married couple may have. Okay. So the court may help decide what goes to the wife and what goes to the husband in the marriage that's splitting. Now, the Eighth Amendment states that the government cannot treat you unfairly or give you cruel and unusual punishments. So, for instance, if you get accused of committing a crime, government can't say, hey, here's a toothbrush, go clean this whole highway with this toothbrush. Okay, that would be cruel and unusual punishment. They also can't say, hey, you're going to jail for this crime, but we're only going to feed you one meal a day. All right, that would be deemed cruel and unusual punishment by the government. So people that go to prison, they get 3 meals a day. Okay? So the government, per the Eighth Amendment, they cannot treat you unfairly or give you cruel and unusual punishments. The Ninth Amendment states that you have other rights that are not listed in these amendments. Okay, those are those natural rights or those unalienable rights that Thomas Jefferson talks about in the Declaration of Independence, like the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that's not specifically listed in the Constitution, but those are certain natural rights that our government believes all humans are born with. You have those rights. And the 10th Amendment states that individual states can make laws about anything that is not the national government's responsibility. So basically what this amendment means is that all powers not specifically given to our national government by the Constitution are reserved as powers of state governments. And this amendment was meant to keep the power between the states and the national government balanced. Okay? So another big accomplishment under George Washington's presidency was the building of Washington, D.C. Now, George Washington never got to live in the White House or live in Washington, D.C., but he approved the plans for the creation of our nation's capital. So, for instance, how the road system is set up, where the White House would be. George Washington was the president that approved those plans. Okay, and they were drawn up by a gentleman by the name of Benjamin Banneker. He was the first. He's going to be a scientist, a very talented scientist and surveyor in American history, and he's going to be the main author of basically the blueprint for the layout of the city of Washington, D.C. So the road system, where the White House goes, all of that. And George Washington basically took a look at his plan and he said, that's absolutely brilliant. I approve it. Let's get working on building our nation's capital. And now let's shift gears and let's talk about John Adams' presidency. So John Adams will become our second president. And interestingly enough, he is our only president out of our first 5 presidents not to be from the state of Virginia. So he will be from the state of Massachusetts. And if you remember back to our discussions about the American Revolutionary era, we already talked about John Adams. Remember, he's going to be the lawyer who defends the British soldiers involved in the Boston Massacre event. And he's going to do this not because he's on Britain's side in the American Revolution. He's going to do this to prove to the King of Britain that fair trials can occur in the colonies. And the major accomplishment under John Adams' presidency is that the two-party system that we currently know in the United States, the Democrats and Republicans, emerged during his presidency.